Hello everybody and welcome. This is the streaming for Paupergeddon Winter Edition 2024. I'm Lorenzo, I'm here with Andrea.
This is Andrea. We are two of the members of BojukaPod, a Pauper podcast. You might know us, you might not, but...
You may recognize our voices, maybe not in English, but in Italian.
Yeah, it's actually the first time that we try to do some content in English. I hope it's going to be all right.
Yes.
And it is going to be.
I hope so. To be.
What are we here for today, Lorenzo?
As we said, we are here for commenting, and we are staying with you all day for today and tomorrow for this edition of Paupergeddon, and we are streaming with the
future match.
The future match
yep.
of this event.
This is round one, and who we got? Table one, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, we got Zanzottera.
Yes.
And Di Costanzo.
Zanzottera, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the name of the other guy?
It's Di Costanzo. We're going to have the name in a minute now. And we just started at the turn one. So we can see a mulligan.
Already, oh
yeah,
yes.
At 5, I think, for Di Costanzo.
Okay, Di Costanzo today is playing blue-white
gates, I'd say, yeah. Which is a pretty popular deck even in the meta right now.
Yeah,
I mean, in the Italian meta especially.
In the Italian meta game,
yeah.
Yes. And Zanzottera, we see he's playing black-green gardens, yes, I think.
Most probably, yeah.
Most probably, yes.
We know the player, and he used to play like black-based decks, usually.
Yes.
So
he started with like mono-black land denial.
Mono-black land denial, yeah.
And then he transitioned to mono-black control, and now he's playing the most popular version, that is black-green gardens.
We'll see. It's probably the black-green gardens deck,
probably,
yeah.
Yes. And here we see like a turn 1 duress that is very crucial, because on a mulligan to 5 can cripple even more the Kogets player.
It could be crushing, actually. We got a Lorien Reveal. We could represent like the third land drop.
Yes.
He could have gone that route with the heritage from his land denial decks. Or as he chose to do the Modern Age, which is a country.
To took the Modern Age. We can see that Di Costanzo can play the Squadron Hawk that can help him regain some advantage from his mulligan. This deck can do this thing. I mean, can play Squadron Hawk to regain value after you even mulligan to 6 or 5. You can regain the cards back, and it's not such a terrible thing. So.
Yeah, recouping some card advantage, I'd say, or would you say card selection as well? Because like you're taking out some quote-unquote bad cards from your deck, which
yes.
are not that bad in this deck particularly.
Not that bad, because you need bodies to pump up with the Basilisk Gate. This is the main strategy of the deck. Of course, the most powerful thing card advantage-wise you can do in this strategy is to pair up Brainstorm and Squadron Hawk to actually draw free. Because you can draw free with Brainstorm, put away 2 Squadron Hawks, and then recast another Squadron Hawk to regain back these 2 cards for free. So it's a very powerful interaction of the deck.
It reminds me of Ancestral Recall, would you say?
Yes, in a certain sense. It's a little bit complicated.
Yeah, it's a Pauper version of Ancestral Recall. And this is probably like the confirmation that this deck is going to be black-green gardens on the other side of the table. Like we got Lembas, one of the ultimate tech that we see usually in these decks. It might still be mono-black, but
it might still. I mean, there are some lists that play like a full mono-black land base, and but they're very less popular. So.
Yeah. But we see Crypt Threats in his hand and some draw engines. I see a Spinning Darkness in the hand of Zanzottera. And just to break time a little bit, we were saying the Italian metagame. Why so? Because we're in Italy at the moment. We're at Paupergeddon, as you said. This is going to be, it is already, the biggest event in paper Magic for Pauper ever seen.
750 players enrolled for this event, for the main event. And it qualifies for the most popular, the most attended event of the Pauper history. So
from over the world, I could say,
from
because
all the world.
There's some people from Europe, of course. We got Greece, I think Poland, and maybe
Brazil?
Brazil, yeah. So we got so many people from abroad, and of course
People
the majority
people from Germany.
Germany, yeah.
We have special guests from Germany.
Yeah, some special guests. We might or might not, we'll see, present them to you, but I think everybody knows them. And yeah, of course, the metagame is going to be populated by the Italian guys, I guess.
Yes.
But
Of course, the great majority of the player.
Yeah. Okay, we see a Troll of Khazad-dûm being cycled for a swamp.
Greenland. So
And that's a Greenland, so we finally can say this is Black-Green Gardens.
confirm that this is Black-Green Gardens.
What is this strategy based about, Lorenzo?
This strategy is based upon the evergreen
I see what you did there.
the evergreen engine of Deadly Disputes effects and artifacts, like cheap artifacts.
And gardens as well. That's why
And
the
gardens,
name, hence the name.
The card Kalni Garden, there is a land that produces a 0/1 token that can be sacrificed and gain advantage. And it is a deck full of removal spells and emblem spells, let's call it like that. So Monarch and initiative spells, initiative creatures.
Yep.
So this is the main goal of the strategy is to control the board mainly with removal spells. Sometimes with, as we can see, there's also the end disruption with duress.
Duresses, yeah, to set up like critical turns.
To set up critical turns and deal with cards that are not dealable with removal spells.
Yep.
Mainly, I don't know, enchantments and
counter spells, which are pretty good against this deck,
Yes.
I'd say. Yeah. And the main strategy, I want to say, is protect the queen. You usually have to like put an emblem in play
Yes.
and then keep it forever and ever until your opponent either dies from boredom or actually dies, probably because of trip threats or from some beatdown.
Yes.
The strategy instead for the blue-white deck is kind of more a control-ish style.
Yeah, more mid-range.
Yeah.
I would call it more of a mid-range deck.
You know what? I'd say it's also a stompy strategy, but as in legacy style.
Yes.
I mean, like you have some disruption or some, in this case, there are not lock pieces, but you have interaction with your opponent, and then you just have big guys that can close the game quickly.
Yeah, the main strategy is having soft and hard permission spells like Spell Pierce and Counter Spell to protect your early turns and your early plays.
In the earlier iterations of this deck, we also saw foil as a card
Yes.
played.
I mean, that
they
was
quickly
like
abandoned that.
that was like a moment, a particular moment of the Pauper metagame that required to have foil. But yes, you have counter spells, and you have these kind of creatures that put more bodies in play. So like Squadron Hawk that can call extra copies from the deck, Sacred Cat that can be embalmed from the graveyard. So you have to spend 2 removal spells to get rid of it, and such. So you have these like intelligent creatures, let's call it like that, like super efficient creatures that can be pumped with the Basilisk Gate. Of course, that is the main angle of attack of the deck.
They bring value in some
Yeah.
way. They are not just bodies, I'd say.
Because like if you have to use the body as itself, like it's all 1/1 creatures, like not very impressive. But as we can see, Matteo is pumping his Squadron Hawk that is like a mere 1/1, but now with the activation of Basilisk Gate is becoming a 6/6.
I think 7/7 with the body itself.
One,
Or
two,
probably
three,
no,
yes.
6/6. You're right. This one, the white-blue
Yes.
land
It's
is
not a gate.
Is not a gate.
Because
yeah.
Basilisk Gate is pumping based on the number of gates that you control.
We don't have life points at the moment on stream, but we're gonna fix that as soon as possible. We'll try and keep track of that, so we can.
This
keep
matchup
you
in particular is
updated.
not so based on the life totals,
Yeah.
because if someone is losing by a lot. I think
Yeah.
like
It's
he's
a
losing
resource.
yes, it's a resource-based matchup. If you're losing by like swings of like 10 points of damage at a time. So
Yeah, we can see avenging hunters with maybe counters on them,
yes,
beating
or
down for
as
7.
explained, like the
Basilisk
Squadron
Gate.
Hawk with Basilisk Gate activation. And now we can see like the strength of the like cards like Squadron Hawk. Like Matteo had to spend 1 card in his hand, the first Squadron Hawk, to get 3 additional copies. And now Luca has to deal with these multiple copies with extra removal. It's not such a terrible thing because Luca's deck can generate a lot of card advantage with deadly dispute effects on.
And even through must removal, I think,
yes.
like these crypt threats that he just put on the battlefield.
Is one of the crucial key points of the matchup, because around it revolves like the entirety of the matchup. If the Garden player can resolve a crypt rat, it can take over the battlefield, especially if there is a map token generated by Fanatical Offering that can pump it to a 2/2, and now that is quite a lock for the Gates player, because he can control every time he tries to pump with Basilisk Gate, the creature is gonna die to the activation of Crypt Rats.
It might even sound like multiple turns gained for the Crypt Rats player, because it's like time walking your opponents,
yes.
because he cannot like overboard with creatures.
You
cannot overload the
you cannot overload the battlefield, exactly. Yeah. You have to put at least like 1 or 2 creatures at maximum, because otherwise you will be Wrath of Godded by the Crypt Rats.
And we see the critical importance of this card, which Luca recognizes, because he had 1 mana to probably or maybe activating the Crypt Rats when Matteo was gonna pump the Squadron with the Basilisk Gate, but instead he just opted to use a spot removal. Mm-hmm. So he values the board presence of the Crypt Rats. And yeah, we were talking about this. This can be a time walk now for his opponent.
And now, health shields down for Matteo. Yeah. So no counter spell in sight. And Luca, he's deciding to resolve his initiative creature. So Avenging Hunter, yes. Mm-hmm. I think that it's doing that also because he doesn't have the land drop.
I think he just kept 1. I mean, he didn't drop it, or he didn't resolve the trigger, probably. I just missed that, but I think he didn't resolve the trigger.
I don't know.
I mean, I see the die put on the Undercity, but it was played by via 5 mana. Yeah. Maybe he wants to discard that with the blood token, and he just kept it into his hands.
And
we'll see.
Yeah, did he tap 4 lands for the Guardian? The Guardian, yes. 1, 2, 3. Maybe this one, but it's.
Yeah, there's another one under there. Yeah.
Okay. So Matteo resolved the Guardian of the Guild Pact. This is a crucial card also for the matchup, because it's a card that cannot be interacted with monocolored removal spells. And it cannot be damaged by Crypt Rats because it's a monocolored source.
But we know there's like a new technology for the Black Garden decks that deals with these threats
BG
specifically.
Also uses edict effects such as Titan Blade. So it's important for the Gardens player to keep the battlefield clean in order to resolve a successful edict effect to deal with this Guardian of the Guild Pact that otherwise would take over the game in like 2 swings. So, but it doesn't appear that Luca has a Titan Blade. Or yes, no, he does. He does.
And he's also.
I don't know if he top decked it right now, or if he had it.
Might be a lucky strike. Not the cigarettes, of course. And he opted to go for the aggressive route. You see, he chose to put counters on the Avenging Hunter, and he's now swinging for 8 points of damage.
Yes.
This game could be closed earlier than we expected, because that Crypt Rats in this specific matchup means a Wrath. We told.
But it can also work like a fireball.
Yeah, it's like a fireball, and it can close the game in unexpected ways.
Yes.
And we see this piece of technology as well, the Witch's Cottage, which works really well with the new basic land cyclers that we had introduced a couple sets ago. Like putting on top a Troll of Khazad-dûm that you like cycle in the first turns of the game, and then recouping that as a creature that can like
because in the
later
turns of the game, Troll of Khazad-dûm is of course like a big threat that can threaten the life total of the opponent. It can close games pretty fast because it's a 6/5 that cannot be blocked by at least 3 creatures. So
and it's pretty big. It's a
pretty
6/5.
big, yes.
Yeah. It has
now
super menace.
we saw that Matteo conceded the game 1 because, of course, it was pretty much an unwinnable game. I mean,
even with prismatic strands, I'd say he was in a very tough situation. And we're gonna see sideboarding now. I saw from the Colgate's player, Matteo here, some typical stuff. I've seen some blasts, like aka the blue, red and blue elemental blasts, which are of course not for this matchup specifically. But I've also seen a couple, maybe 3 copies of Relic of Progenitors, which could be in a way counterintuitive, but could be pretty good in this matchup because, like the fountains, the blood fountains played by the BG Garden player, often mean more Crypt Rats on the board, and even other threats, of course. But Crypt Rats, which is the main source of stability for this deck.
Yeah, as we said before, the main focus of the matchup is revolving around Crypt Rats. So I expect the Gates players to bring cards like Relic of Progenitors or Essence Scatters or like additional counters for creatures that can deal with this specific threat, because Initiative and Monarch are scary, of course, but they're not so game-breaking as Crypt Rats. So I would concentrate and focus my sideboard plan more on Crypt Rats, because that is the main threat to my strategy as a Colgate player. Of course, it will not also always be possible to counter every Crypt Rats that Luca is presenting, and so it is important to use your answers in a proficient way, like maybe leaving up counter spells just for that. So we will see how Matteo decides to approach this second game.
For sure, we can say the lesser copies of Crypt Rats, the better.
Yes.
But what about from the perspective of the Colgate's player? Isn't it strange to play Relic of Progenitors as a sideboard tech? I mean, it's of course really good against this kind of decks that revolve around the graveyard, or actually maybe even base the entire strategy around the graveyard, as we can see in the Dredge new decks that we probably will see in streaming as well. But I mean, Colgate's is a graveyard deck as well. In minimal parts,
I mean, yes,
they don't impact that much probably in this matchup specifically, and that's why
I was gonna say, like, I
that.
think that a couple or maybe more copies of Prismatic Strands can be taken out, not for this specific reason, but because they're not even so good in the matchup.
They're just like Fox. They can't do much against Crypt Rats.
They can
itself.
be relevant, like in a situation where you don't want to exchange the control of emblems in subsequent turns. But I think there are better cards to bring in, so this can be taken out at least in 1 or 2 copies. So from that perspective, yes, you rely less on graveyard in the like game 2 and game 3. But the main thing is that the Relic is your card, so you can decide when to use it and how to use it, so you can play around your own Relic. I don't know how to say that better, but
it's a tool you can manipulate in such a manner where it just brings you advantages and little disadvantages maybe, but yeah. And
in certain situations, it's better to lose a Sacred Cat in the graveyard rather than have your opponent recoup one of these Crypt Rats that you already countered. You cannot have like infinite counters. So
it reminds me, it's gonna be a couple years ago already, I'd say, the Dimir deck that I used to play in the past. Nobody knows, of course, but I'm talking about the Flicker deck, the one with Archaeomancers and Chittering Rats and stuff, Dimir Flicker. I played, and everybody else also played, Relic of Progenitors in that strategy. Because, it's a tool you can use against your opponent, even if it's kind of detrimental sometimes for yourself. But the advantage it gains for you, it's crucial.
It's a kind of trade-off. You have to trade off maybe some things of your deck, but the payoff is much more higher because you have to stop some graveyard strategies of these decks.
We didn't see. What do you think the Black Green Garden player put in his sideboard and in his deck right now? I'd say some more disruption in the form of probably more copies of Duress if he has.
Probably yes.
We're gonna have the lists in a couple rounds, I think. So we're gonna be more precise about this. And what do you think about the Glamour in this particular matchup? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad?
The Glamour for Relic of Progenitus and Journey to Nowhere.
And also the Modern Ages.
Modern Ages, yeah, it could be something you're interested in playing. It depends really on how many dead cards have in game one. If you have like cards that you don't want to see at all, you might consider cutting them for these more niche cards because they're not like super relevant in the matchup, but can be in some spots.
And we see now a Brainstorm, I think...
A Brainstorm with a terrible artwork.
In end step. Why so? It's Jace, it's always good.
Yes, but I don't like the frame. Like, it's too... I don't know. I like the...
Is it too modern for you?
Too modern, yes.
Do you like the Mercadian Masks one?
No, I like the Mercadian Mask artwork, but I use the Conspiracy... I think it's Conspiracy frame.
The frame.
So like the modern frame, but I like the artwork. So
you're a hipster, you know that.
Yes.
Yes.
I know, but that is not true because that is not the Mercadian Mask artwork. I'm making confusion. But yeah, I use the Conspiracy one. I like that. But I also like the Mercadian Mask. So
Brainstorm is likable as a card in a whole.
Yes,
I think.
But I think some artworks are terrible. So.
What do you think about the Modern Age? Do you like the card itself?
The Modern Age
in
is like...
In a vacuum,
In a vacuum, yes. It's a nice card. In this deck, it's particularly strong because it enables some interesting graveyard shenanigans. But the best thing about the Modern Age is that is, I think, one of the two only playable sagas in the format, and the other one is like a black saga only played in mono black burn decks. So this is like the only real saga that you can play in Pauper.
So we can see these two guys battling at table one right now, and they're just a couple among the 750-ish people we got today. So just stay with us for the whole weekend. You're gonna be seeing a lot of different matchups and skilled players that will battle against each other to try and win the cup and also the prizes, of course. What do you think about this matchup in particular? I think that Black Gardens is heavily favored.
I mean, not so heavily. I mean,
it depends on counterspell.
It depends,
I think,
on how much the Kogates player has set up his own sideboard plan against, as I was saying before, playing against these initiative creatures and Crypt Rats. So more copies of Essence Cutters and similar. But I think that an experienced Gates player can navigate this matchup not to a crushing result, but like a modest result. It's not an easy matchup, of course, but there are worse matchups. So yeah, I played this matchup a lot on the side, on the side of Colgates, because I used to play the deck a lot. I don't like the matchup because I don't like generally playing against BG. I don't like the deck at all.
We played a couple times,
yes,
against each other, and I was on the Black Gardens side.
Yeah,
it was fun for me.
I very much dislike the deck, playing against it, playing with it, playing. I don't know. And now we see, like what we were saying before, Crypt Rats is entering the battlefield uncontested for now. And there's also a Relic of Progenitus on the other side of on the table that is not doing much right now. But we will see. Maybe Matteo is Matteo has a Journey to Nowhere in hand that can be used to take out these crypt rats. Thank you.
Also, we can see a map token, an innovation in this kind of deck. I mean, draw spells for 2 manas are a thing, of course, since the printing of Deadly Dispute. But now we also see this new iteration of 2 mana draw spells, which draw 2 cards, of course. Instead of a treasure, now we get a map. And the map is particularly good with crypt threats in this matchup, and in others, of course, because having that single little counter, which you can also set up in some cases with Troll of Khazad-dûm, getting the Witch's Cottage, and then getting with that the Troll on top of your deck, so guaranteeing the +1/+1 on the crypt threats. It means you can use it as a tool
from
every
then
turn.
From then on, it's like quite game over for the Gates player because
it's Whale of the Nim every turn.
Yes.
I won't say nausea because it's not -1/-1, but you
while
get
we're
that.
talking, we saw an interesting play from Luca, because Matteo put on the stack a Journey to Nowhere that was meant to target the crypt rats that was on Luca's side of the board, but Luca recognized the situation and sacrificed his own crypt rats for 1 damage, leaving on the battlefield only the Modern Age that was flipped the turn before by Matteo. So when Journey to Nowhere resolved on the battlefield, the only legal target that could be targeted with the Journey was its own Vector Glider. So he had to target it with Journey to Nowhere. So now it is resting under the Journey to Nowhere. So
it's taking a little bit of a break.
But in a certain way, Matteo was able to resolve that crypt rats and is exiled with the Relic of Progenitus. So for this particular game, that copy of crypt rats is no longer a problem. But on the other side, Luca untapped his lands and slammed 4 mana Thorn of the Black Rose on the battlefield. So now things are becoming interesting because Matteo was forced, I would say, to commit to the battlefield, putting a flyer on the board. But now Luca has the chance to play its removal spells and control the battlefield and let the Monarch do the heavy lifting and carry the game for him.
And we see a Snuff Out right now, which paired with a couple copies of Spinning Darkness is a great tool to maintain these emblem effects, because you, as a tap-out control deck, sometimes you just slam your emblem or your creature which produces an emblem, either Monarchy or the Initiative, and then you have these free spells which can interact with possible stealers from the other side of the board, and that's really good for this deck. Like, Protect the Queen at its maximum. I'd say in a Delver strategy, this is the days that you could play to save your Delver. I always do Legacy references. I'm sorry, guys, but Pauper is Legacy to me.
He's not even a Legacy player, so that's funny. But
yeah, that is. I wish I could play Legacy more. Would you like to play Legacy with me? Sometimes? Would you like to play with me at all?
If we can proxy the cards, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise, I would have to use like several salaries to build like half of the deck. So I saw in the comment sections that someone was suggesting that the Relic of Progenitus also shuts down the possibility to cast Spinning Darkness for free. It's true. Of course, that's another side effect that this Litter artifact can produce in the matchup. So, for sure.
And it's gonna be another card eventually when Matteo decides to crack it as well. That's the versatility of Relic.
For a new card when it's necessary.
There are other graveyard hate-specific cards played in the metagame, but I'm not gonna say I dislike those, because in fringe spots they can be really good, like the one that makes the zombie.
Rotten Reunion?
Yeah, Rotten Reunion, thank you. That's particularly good, maybe against the BG Guardians deck to steal the emblems.
Of course, colored mana restrictions, like some decks can play some of these graveyard hate spells, some cannot. Relic of Progenitus, of course, being colorless, is the most popular choices between the metagame. and it's also one of the most efficient in doing so. So that's the go-to choice for most of these decks. But decks that can play like Rotten Reunion sometimes prefer it because you can put a body on the battlefield and can be relevant in like this emblem mirrors or such.
I mean, it has decayed, but who cares? It's not there to attack more than once if it can steal the monarchy or something. So yeah, that's pretty relevant, and it came about like as a new unexplored route that some decks have taken in the last couple of months, well, maybe more, like the half year, I'd say, or something. And yeah, it's doing some work at the moment. But we see a flurry of targeted removal spells now from Luca, which does want to keep its monarch.
Yeah, I saw in the comment section that someone is like saying that Relic is maybe not the best answer to BG Gardens. I quite agree to a certain extent, because it's not the best answer you can have against this strategy. But the problem of this strategy is being a good card deck, a good pile deck, like a mid-range control deck that only has good cards. It's difficult to target the strategy in a proficient way with specific cards. And in this particular case, I think that Matteo doesn't have like the best answers for this specific matchup, like as we said before, like Essence Scatters and such. And I think Relic is just like something that you can bring in because sometimes it can be useful, like as we said, for exiling Crypt Rats and things like that. But I think that the main thing is that he had such bad cards in game one that he needs to remove those to replace them with something that could be at least useful in some spots. I saw that Matteo has in hand a Coalition Honor Guard that can be, I mean, it's a quite particular card because it's not so popular in the metagame right now. It's a creature that costs 4 mana. It's a 2/4 that forces the opponent to target it. I think it's mainly boarded in for this matchup for the targeted removals, but I don't know. It's the best choices ever. I don't know if it was main deck or sideboard. Sometimes people play it main deck. So now we see Matteo is populating the board a little bit more. He's using a Squadron Hawk to threaten the monarchy. But Luca is full of cards in hand. Like he has, I think, 7 or 8 cards in hand, and I'm pretty sure he has some kind of removal to keep the battlefield clean on Matteo's side. Let's see what he decides to do. He attacks because he recognizes that he has no valuable blocks on the way back. So why not? Let's push 1 damage. And now I think he will use a Titan Blade. Let's see. Yes, Titan Blade. Right now the Modern Age is not a creature, so the only possible choice for Matteo was to sacrifice his own Squadron Hawk. And now we see the second punch. So Avenging Hunter comes to the battlefield and triggers the first step of the initiative dungeon. Luca searches for a swamp. And now, I mean, for Matteo, 2 cards in hand, it seems very difficult to regain control of this particular game.
Even if the Relic came down earlier in this game, I think it's done its job, but it's not a tool. It's not going to be enough of a tool to like recoup the card advantage and board presence that Luca just put down. I mean, as somebody in the chat on Twitch said, and I thank you guys for listening to us and interacting with us. This game might have been over several turns ago already. I mean, we're gonna be seeing that until the end, until Matteo either surrenders or dies to the creatures of Luca, or maybe not. Maybe he's gonna recoup the card advantage in some way and use like a guardian and destroy Luca. We'll see. I'm not gonna be picky right now or judgy, but yeah, I think that the turning point for this matchup was the monarchy. It's been for Luca to
It's at least 4 or 5 turns.
Maybe more of that.
Maybe more.
Maybe
probably
6,
more.
Yeah. So it's at least 6 cards, more than what Matteo has seen. And also the tools that can give card advantage to Matteo, apart from the Squadron Ox, as we said, which are raw card advantage, but not in a sense that would matter for this matchup to an extent.
Not a super meaningful.
Yeah. And the other tool for, I'd say, card quality in this case, because it's not really card advantage, is the Modern Age, which doesn't provide you with fresh cards. It just lets you cycle the ones
you can do like some sort of card advantage if you discard like graveyard matter spells like Sacred Cat, Prismatic Strands, and even more Deep Analysis. But Deep Analysis is not a card that it's played very much nowadays.
Mono Red is too prominent. What do you say? At least on MTGO.
But yes, it's something you can do. Maybe 1 or 2 copies. Sometimes it can be played. Now we see a Prismatic Strands flashed back with Coalition Honor Guard, the creature we were talking earlier. That is trying to like put a patch on the situation, because it's like preventing Luca to make damage with its green creature. But Luca is like doing his stuff, doing his thing, putting plants and creatures and using removals to keep the thing clear. So we'll see how much longer Matteo can resist, but I don't see it coming back.
It's a relentless attack, even if it's just a couple of creatures.
I mean, it's possible.
It's possible. We cannot deny that. As somebody in the chat said, a Guardian of the Guild Pact protected with something else as a like a cover up.
Yeah. Also
can steal the game, but
also
that's
the fact that he used already a Titan Blade for an earlier creature, and he's now populating the board with 1 and soon to be 3 creatures, so a Guardian can actually steal the game.
But it's missing the key piece. The Basilisk Gate, which is of course the card which the strategy revolves around, and probably the only way to steal this game, apart from the Guardian itself, which we cannot see on the battlefield for now. There's gonna be a flying body in a moment, but that's like not meant to last that much if Luca has removal in hand.
I don't see if Luca has removal
really dark
spells.
as well.
He has a Defile in hand right now, at least. I don't know if he has more. But let's see, it's a Avenging Hunter, a Garden, a Defile, and I don't see what else. Lorien Revealed is a start. Pretty powerful raw card advantage. The file is trying to target the
Standard Bearer.
Yes, because
the
has
big
to.
guy, because it has to.
So Lorien Revealed is going to resolve soon, I think. But first, let's see.
Yeah, Luca is trying to interact with Matteo while Lorien is on the stack.
Yes.
Avoiding counter spells since not 2 blue manas are up.
I think Matteo has a counterspell in hand.
I think so. He had 2 untapped blue mana for the past like 2 or 3 turns already, but still didn't recognize like the nice spot, the sweet spot to throw that on the table. Maybe he's waiting for something else to secure Guardian of the Guild Pact, or he recognizes that he has to go that route to steal the game. And we can see the Guardian. He just drew that, but it's probably too late.
It's too late.
He just
In fact, he conceded. Yes.
Yeah. So we see.
I saw that.
Luca.
I saw that Luca sideboarded also. What is the call? What's called like Drowning Sorrow, it's a card that the Colgate's player can work around, because you can play like 1 or 2 creatures at a time to avoid to be completely destroyed by the card. But I think it's a good card to side in, because you have to you force the Gates player to commit to the board in a certain way to protect his Guardian, because you have to put like
at least one creature more.
At least one or 2 creatures to protect the Guardian from the edict effects. But you can then play the Drowning Sword to clean the board.
To polish, yeah.
And then use your Titan Blade to resolve the Guardian.
You're always in a tough spot against Black Guardians, because either you go 1 for 1 for a while, like I put a body, you destroy it, I put another one, you kill it, and so on and so forth. Or either you try and go not too wide, because then wrath effects can get you, but at least a bit. But maybe if the Guardian player has redundant copies of wrath effects, he can just say, I'll just use one to get at least a 2 for 1 or a 3 for 1.
I also said one comment I saw in the chat that said that Anul is a good card against BG Guardians, and it's a quite interesting take, because usually you don't think of Anul of like a card you can bring in against BG Guardians, because it's a card meant for affinity decks or Tron decks, decks that are very relying on, or Boggles as well, very relying on artifacts and enchantments. But actually, artifacts are a big part of Guardian strategy, so you can counter its Lembas, its Ichor Wellspring, its Titan Blade. So it's
the
a
early
good
game,
card
actually.
for the matchup.
Yeah. The earlier, the merrier, I'd say, because if you can counter a 2-drop from the Guardians player...
Yeah, sometimes you can block them.
Yeah, because somebody in the community says that Black Guardians is a demon deck or something of sorts, because...
It is.
It is, actually, yeah. We can say that because we got it in our hands for some time. And when you don't draw the sack outlet, not the sack outlets, like the sacrificable things, the casualties, I'd say.
You don't have fodder for your
sacrificing effect. So you're just locked. You have a couple, 3 copies of dispute effects in your hands, you cannot use them. So there's the potential of having a lot of new and fresh cards and moving forward with your gameplay. But if you don't have anything to sacrifice, that's going to be a problem. And that's why the garden itself
that's the kind of disruption that can hint the garden plan. So if you don't have any sacrifice fodder, it's harder to improve your board state. It's harder to
develop your mana base as well.
Your mana base and your game plan, because your game plan is to make a plant or make an artifact that cantrips and then sacrifice it with dispute, etc., etc. So it's not such a terrible take to consider Anul as a good card against BG. I mean, I would prefer other cards if I could, if I given the choice. But
if Exclude costed 1 mana,
Exclude,
would you play that?
Exclude and Essence Scatter and more copies of counter spells and Ginger Brutes. These are the cards that I like the best against this strategy. But also this take is interesting. I like it.
What do you think about the Monarchy played by the Colgate's player to contrast the Monarchy by the Guardians player?
It's a plan that we tried.
We
sometimes.
ventured in that, yeah.
Yes, it's something you can play, but you have to craft your game plan according to it. You have to play your Monarch creature to steal back the Monarchy from the Garden player. You have to probably keep your counter spells for subsequential creatures that try to steal the Monarchy again, because he has more emblem creatures to spare, and he also has blood fountains and such to recoup them. So you have to use your answers properly for this plan. So I don't know. I don't like it very much, but can be explored a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a different take that we suggest you to try and test, and then refer to us so we can get your feedback for that. another tip I'm gonna give you is to stay with us, because now that round 1 is over, we're gonna go on a break for a couple minutes and we'll wait for you. Everybody,
with us.
stay until the end of our lives, I'd say.
Yeah.
But at least for the tournament. We're gonna have the second round in like a couple minutes or so, and just stay with us.
Yeah, we are going to be with you all of today and all of tomorrow.
And not just us
Not
two,
just us,
I'd
of
say.
course.
We got 4 in total, 2 more that
Yes.
you're gonna be knowing in the subsequent rounds. Gabriele and another Andrea, but I'm the, what would you say? The beautiful
Andrea,
one.
earlier presented you like the best one in Magic between the two Andreas, but he's the best in everything else.
In life, yeah. Yeah, I quite agree. So thank you guys for staying with us for now, and we'll see you in a bit with round 2 of Paupergeddon Winter Edition
Don't
2024.
run away.
Yeah, we're in Lecco. Come join us. Bye.
Bye.